Hi everybody, Randon Purcell here. I am going to be doing a walkthrough of the new AizerX Modern Trailer Toolkit from Keep Forest. Now the Modern Trailer Toolkit is part of the AizerX family of instruments, which uses the same engine and interface across the instruments, but I'm going to focus just on Modern Trailer Toolkit. They are sold separately or as a bundle, so you can just check them out. But I'm going to just jump right in here and do a quick look of the interface before we start listening to the sounds, but we'll get to that really fast. So when you load up the AizerX Modern Trailer Toolkit, this is kind of your default view. And I'm just going to kind of highlight a few sections here because it probably can look a little confusing to people right at first because there's so much here, but it's actually much simpler than you think. So first of all, there's 6 unit sections to load sounds. There's these 4 sections at the top. They're called units, 4 units at the top, and then unit 5 and unit 6, and they all have kind of a distinct purpose. Units 1 through 4 are used for loading sounds that are maybe more tonal in nature, I guess. Benders, Brahms, things like that. I'll click on that and show you. You've got tonal subhits, Brahms signals, even risers, downers, things like that. And that's what you would get to pick from for those first 4 units. Units 5 and 6 have a different set of instruments available. There is some crossover, but let me click on this and show you. For Unit 5, this is your whoosh unit. And you'll see that it's got subhits and modern trailer hits and all these different sounds available. Additionally, risers are in there, and the subhits tonal is a crossover that's in both. And then Unit 6 is for hits, and it's exactly the same as far as the instruments available or the sounds available as the whoosh. So it shows these. So the way this works, and this is why the interface shouldn't scare you away, these 6 units all have the same functionality. So you learn one, you've learned all 6 of them, and you're good to go. And the way this thing works is pretty amazing. Each instrument that you load up, each preset, we'll call it, has 7 different sets of keys assigned to it. So you can load, these 6 units can be loaded up for a single sound, which is assigned to 2 keys. And the way it works is that key 1, so in this example, the C key here, is going to play the whoosh and hit, whereas key 2, which is just one step up on D, is going to play just the hit. And this is a really great time saver for anyone who's ever had that perfect whoosh sound, but it had a hit attached to it and you didn't want it, or vice versa. You wanted the whoosh hit, but then you wanted to follow up with just that same hit, and you had to go create that. So this makes it really easy. When you load up all of these sounds in the units, they're pre-programmed to play that whoosh leading into all of the other sounds. But it's still all adjustable as well, and we'll get into that. So just right off the bat, I'm just going to play one of the whoosh sounds that's loaded on key C here, and you'll see what I mean. So this is key 1. And then I'll play key 2. It just has the hit, as you can see. So it does this 7 times across the keyboard. So every 2 keys is a new sound with different sounds loaded up in each of the units. We'll get more into that, but I'm just going to go through the interface the rest of the way here, now that you've kind of seen how that works. Up here in the middle is the section where you can select presets. So if you click on this, it brings up presets. I don't have any because I'm kind of working on an early release of this, but I've got my own presets that I've created here. So if I wanted to load up my distorted subhits, for example, I could just click on that and load it. And that loads up all of the 7 key sets that have been created for that preset. So that's how you select and save your presets. There's this really great feature here, though, called Random. And this allows you to set up the randomization engine the way you want it. I'll show you that here. So I'm going to click on Randoms. And again, there's a lot here, but it's really not that difficult to grasp. So you've got your units here. A, B, C, D, whoosh, and hit. Those 6 units we just talked about. So for each of those units, you can come in here and select which of the sounds you want to be available to that unit during randomization. So if I just uncheck this, it'll take away all of them, and I could say maybe I just want risers on unit A. In fact, maybe I want to build a riser, and I'm going to start with, you know, on unit B, I'm going to also use a riser, and on unit C, maybe I want to try a bender in there with it. Let's just do low benders. Maybe on D, I want to use, you know, high benders. I don't know. We'll do mid benders. Let me uncheck everything and just check that one. And then whoosh and hit. I'll just let them kind of get everything from their respective categories. And then I save that. Well, I don't even have to click save or anything. Once I close that, that's what's loaded. So to randomize, there's two options. Key, which just randomizes, replaces all the sounds in the key that's selected. So if I select the C key here and hit random or key, it's going to replace all of the sounds here on this one key, but leave all the other other six alone. So I'll hit key, and that's going to load things up. I'm going to make those available. So as I go through the random, I'll just play a few sounds just so you can kind of hear. I'm letting that off early because I don't want to wait for all the risers, but you get the idea. I'll hit random again. So you can see how the random engine gives you a really great way to kind of start your sound making process. Maybe you just sit here and hit random over and over again until you hear something that inspires you to move on. But that's what's really great about this random is this ability to just say I want risers and benders only, or I want everything. You know, if I come back in here and go through, I can just kind of enable everything for all of the units. And what you'll find is you get some really wild sounds going on here. Great starting points or even finishing points. Sometimes you end up with a really cool sound that you just want to use. So I'll randomize through here. And again, as you're doing this, you know, I've just been playing the C key here, but let me play the one above it, D, to show you just the hit. It's all random. Whoosh hit. And just the hit. So you get the idea. So that's our randomization. If I hit kit, it would do it for all 7 keys. And as you can see, you know, I'm going to get into the units individually here in just a second. Let me show you the rest of this. Down the middle here, we've got this really cool XY pad, basically. And you can, you know, if you've got an XY controller, like a Chaos pad or one of the keyboards that has an XY pad on it, you can assign your controllers and control this. But it's basically a way to move between the volumes of each of those 4 first units. You know, the ones that can load Brahms and things like that. So as you can see, I'm moving this around, and you can watch all those volumes within each of the available units moving. This can give you some really cool twisted effects. Basically, you're moving between risers and things like that you just wouldn't get otherwise. And you know, combine that with some hard left and right panning on your units, and you get some really nice stereo effects and just things you wouldn't normally come up with on your own. So as you're moving that around, it's got the ability to record your movement. So you press a key. Let's just I'm going to randomize this and try to get kind of a longer sound here. Let's see what we've got. Okay, well, for this purpose that works. So let's just use that, and I'll move this around as that's playing. I'm going to enable that one too. Get the idea there. If I wanted to record certain movements on this, I could just hit record and then play my key and move this. So done, I can put it into play mode. Or actually, sorry, active mode, so that comes on and off. And when I play that key again, it'll automatically play through that for me. And if I screwed something up and I don't like it anymore, I can just deactivate that, and it won't have any effect on me anymore. So that's basically the XY. There's some other options here that I'm sure we'll go into in an in-depth tutorial, but I want to kind of move on here. Also right here is Pro mode versus Easy mode. And what you'll notice is that in Easy mode, it just kind of strips things down and gives you the basic, features within each of these units, just kind of volume and disable and solo, things like that. Whereas Pro mode adds a whole lot of extra features that we're going to dive into in a moment. So if things kind of look a little bit intimidating to you at first, maybe kick it into Easy mode. You can still randomize and do all the other cool stuff, and the sounds stay exactly the same. It's just the ability to manipulate that changes. Down here at the bottom, we have our global section. I'm not going to go into this too much, but basically you've got a global filter that applies to all 6 of your units, and you've got a global ADSR that applies to all 6 of your units. Particularly handy for risers if you want to build a cool riser, but maybe you don't like the introduction to it to come in too harshly, and you don't want to adjust each of your units separately. You can just come down here to the global ADSR and get a really cool attack on that. Then in this middle section here, this shows the starting point for each of the units. So the whoosh hit from unit 5 always comes in first when you play that first key in the key set. And then this shows where the others come in relative to that. So when I press C, you'll see it move here. When I press the second key, you'll see it starts just on where these are outlined. This is what's really great, is you can adjust that for each of the units. So let's take, I'm just going to randomize this key here real quick. Okay, so we can hear how these sounds are coming in one after the other. Okay, that's pretty cool. Now, what if I wanted that hit that was right up here to come in a little sooner? Well, I can do it up here in the unit, but I can also do it down here on this global setting. So I'd look up here and say, this is unit, it's labeled A. So I'm going to come down here and find A. Maybe I want it to come in much later, or maybe even sooner. Let me try, no, later. Here we go. So I could drag that out. You can hear it moved quite a bit. So this table down here allows you to just kind of move around your starting points, things like that. I'm going to load up a riser here to show you something else that's really cool in here. I'm going to just come up here to my presets. I'm going to load up one of my riser patches. And let's see which one I want to use here. So here's the riser untouched as it came as I built it. Pretty cool. Let's say I wanted that thing to be panning around and stuff. That's where these tables down here come in really handy. What we've got here is this little cogwheel over here brings up the options for this. You've got 3 different tables you can work with: a panning table, a tuning table, and a filter table. You just kind of turn them on and off as you want. I'm going to turn on the panning table. And if you want, you can randomize it. You can come in and say, I only want this to affect, the first units A and B, ignore C and D, things like that. I'm just going to let it affect everything right now. Then I can come down here and say, select the table I want to work with. I'm going to work with panning. And show and hide what's going on here. So, as you see, when I press the play key here, I'm using a B up here in this case. You kind of see that moving. that thing to be panning back and forth the whole time, I could just kind of draw in a curve like this. I'm terrible at drawing with my mouse, but Keep Forest put in a really cool feature here for people like me. Smooth table. I can just kind of smooth that out. And if I got the sides backward, I wanted it to go from right to left, or I did it from right to left and I want it to go left to right, I can invert that table. I can also copy that table and paste it. If I wanted to apply that same table to multiple key sets on this preset, I could copy this table, press the other key, and then paste that table in. It's really cool. So let's hear what that does now. There you go. So that's this table down here. I think that covers the basic major functionality without diving into the units. So we're going to dive into the units next. And what I'm going to do here is just show you one unit because it's the exact same functionality across all of the units. Well, particularly these first 4 units. And you get a lot of functionality within each one. So I'm going to solo this guy here. Let's see what that sounds like. All right, I'm going to just leave that for now. And I want to show you some of the features here. So you've got disable if you want to just take out a unit completely. You can solo it, which I've done right now. Here is where you click to select your sound. Select from any of these. And as you can see, there's just a ton of sounds in here. As I scroll through here, just lots of stuff to pick from. And then these little arrows here and here allow you just to kind of scroll through the sounds without having to pop up that menu. Okay, let me find one here. I'm going to load up like a Bram sound so that it's kind of easy to hear and work with. Okay. Now, within here, you also have the ability to tune them. Now, you can also use the key switches down here to change the key, but this is your basic default tuning of each unit. Then you have a cutoff filter and a volume and a pan. So your basic stuff's right along here, but the really cool stuff is hiding out on the side here and up here. So for each of these units, I can actually move my start and end point of the sample. So here's the default where I'm going to click this reset button here, which sets it to the default, which is a full start and end of the sample. Okay, it's got the tail out there. Maybe I don't want it to come in like that. Maybe I want to start up here after the major hit. Maybe I just want the tail. Or maybe I want the full beginning, but not the full end. I can just kind of move that. Then for each of these, you also have an ADSR. Maybe I don't want that big release at the end. I want to let off my key and have it just stop. So I'll crank that down. Maybe I don't want that little kind of intro to it. Okay. I think everybody understands an ADSR, so I'm not going to dive into this much, but you've got your attack here, you know, if you really wanted. Anyway, you've also got this little button here, which right now is showing a forward arrow. I'm not sure if you can see that or not in the recording, but that changes the position, or rather the playback of the sample. So right now it's just playing start to finish. If I click that, you'll see it changes to finish to start. It goes in reverse. Click it again. It goes into a cycle mode, which is forward, back, forward, back. And again, it goes into a loop mode, which is front to back, you know, start to finish, start to finish. And then click again and it just goes back to the regular. Okay. As you can see, you got a lot of flexibility here, and this is for each of the units, so you can do quite a bit with these different functionality here. Now I want to get into the LFO. Each unit gets an LFO section. I'm going to click on that, and you'll see the options it brings up here. So first of all, you've got to turn it on in order to hear anything from it. Then you've got a couple of options here, hertz or tempo. I'm going to set it to tempo, and then as I move the frequency here, you'll see that it's doing whole notes, half notes, quarter notes, eighth notes, and you can go in triplets and things like that. I'm going to crank up the gain here so we can actually hear what it's doing and play that. Okay, and if I want to, I can set that to automate, and you can see now I can draw in my curve to change that frequency as the sample plays through. Well, I might need to change that a little bit to fit the sample here since it's so short. Let me just crank that up like that. Okay, I can click show and hide to hide that. Now here's a really cool part of this LFO. Maybe I only want it to LFO until right there, and then I want to have the regular tail out. Well, just like adjusting the start and end point of the sample playback, you can start and adjust the you can adjust the start and end point of the LFO. So when I'm in LFO mode here, I'm going to change the end to, let's see, looks like the tail of this sample is starting about right there. So we got that. It's pretty cool. You can do a lot with that LFO. It's really fun to make risers and play with that LFO on each of the different units. So again, you got all of that for each of the 6 units. So I'm not going to dive into each one of those. And that's essentially what you've got going on here with this Modern Trailer Toolkit. Now, there's a second side to this, and that is the Modern Trailer Toolkit kits, which are drum kits with also some sample loops of instruments, noises, and then it's also got some built-in trailer effects, swoosh hits, things like that. Which we'll go into right now, but well, in just a moment. For now, I thought it would be fun just to play through some of these sounds, just to show you what this thing's capable of. So I'm going to start by just making some random sounds, and then I'll go through a couple of presets. So here we're going to randomize this. I'm going to press C down here. We're going to randomize key C. What's great about this, as you can see, is it's not just randomizing the sounds that are loaded, it's also loading up or randomizing all of the start and finish, the looping playback, things like that, so you really get a truly random sound. For sound designers, this is a great starting point, or really for anyone, just to get some ideas flowing. Go all the way. So I'm going to load up a few of the presets that I've made just to give you an idea. First, we'll start with some whoosh hits. How about that? So that loaded up all the 7 key sets. I'll just start with the first ones, and I'm going to play the both keys on all of these so that you can hear the whoosh and then just the hit. love about this is the ability to play the whoosh hit and layer the hits right on top of it like this. I'll go to the next key here. And just the hit. Next key. And just the hit. Next key. And just the hit. You get the idea. And the final key. One thing on this one that's important to note, let me go back to the swoosh hit. You can see I actually loaded up a riser down here for the whoosh section of this. But it's just playing the little part of it there. Cool stuff. Alright, I'm going to move on to the kit section of the Modern Trailer Toolkit here. I'll load that up here in a different instrument. 1 second. There we go. Alright, so the kits. As you can see, all of the units are simplified. There's no options for adjusting all that stuff. So the kits are just kind of a quick load up and go, which is awesome. And you pick them with your same preset chooser. You got drives and beats. The drives are going to have more of your kind of rock drums and guitars and things like that. And the beats are great for, you know, trap, hybrids, electronic hybrids, dubstep hybrids, things like that. But the trap kits are really cool. I'm going to just show you a few of the drives first. This is the one that's loaded by default, Panic Attack. And I'm going to set my tempo on my sequencer to match so that you can actually hear what it's supposed to sound like. It'll follow your tempo as well, but this gives it its true sound. So let me load that up. And so here's the kit by default. Right. Toms, hats. It uses a pretty standard layout for the drums. And cymbals and everything. Then up above there you get some trailer effects. And up above there, some loops. Hold that here. I'm going to play these keys together up here so you can kind of hear the whole loop. The idea. I'm just going to play through a few of these kits in drive. Let's go to slow motion impacts. This is 75 beats per minute, so I'm going to again adjust my sequencer tempo. Here we go. I love this kit actually. One thing about the rock drums and these kits is they really cut through your mix easily. You don't have to do a bunch of processing to them. Again, up above, some trailer effects, and then some sounds. Oops. You get the idea. Pretty cool. I'm going to go into the beats now just to let you hear those other... Well, actually, you know, I wanted to play... I think it's this guy. This is triple action, 120 beats per minute. I'm going to change my sequencer. And these kits, I'm telling you, they are so easy to play in and just record straight into your mix. Let's go ahead and play. So you can have some fun with that. Now let's load up some of the beats and just kind of show a couple of these trap kits. Let's see, we're changing to 75 beats per minute. Oops. Cool stuff. So that's a fun one. Obviously that was just kind of me messing around, but you get the idea of what kind of stuff is hiding inside of each of these beat presets. I'll just load up another one at random here. I'll just do the last one. So up in the sounds or hybrid effects, we've got some nice rumbles, whoosh hits. Oh, sorry, this was supposed to be at 150 beats per minute. Let me fix that real quick. All right. So that's essentially the kit section. So as you can hear, between the kits with all the great drums and sounds and all of the effects you have loaded on the other side of the Modern Trailer Toolkit, there's really a vast amount of things you can do with this. It's a great tool for sound designers, composers, producers, anyone needing some unique sounds that you're not going to hear in other libraries, because you can randomly generate them or mix and match and adjust to make sounds that are truly unique and your own for your compositions. So I urge everyone to give it a shot. I think anyone who plays with this is going to fall in love with it. It's become a part of my toolkit that I just don't ever want to go without. And I hope you'll check it out and give it a chance. I'm going to cover in another video the demo I wrote for the Modern Trailer Toolkit and some of the sounds that were used in that. Thanks for watching.